Beer. It's been bringing people together for millennia and will continue to do so many years into the future. Some would say over the past decade we've seen a beer revolution in Canada, and definitely so in Calgary. Chances are if you were not a beer person 5 years ago, today's breweries have at least one product that will please your palate. Due to the lifting of restrictive volume requirements in Alberta in late 2013, we have seen the emergence of the nano brewery. These small batch craft breweries have pushed the envelope when it comes to beer recipes with their creative take on beer production. Recently, steps were taken by the Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission that allows for a less tax burden growth for local nano and microbreweries. This while increasing taxation on products entering Alberta from breweries operating east of Saskatchewan, which has ruffled more than a few feathers. While it's easy to appreciate the nuances of a fine craft brew, the politics of beer are hardly subtle. That said, let's talk some beer. Hey, Calgary, I'm Kevin Chorney. Welcome to the show. Today, as you gathered, we're talking beer. I got a couple guests lined up, guys. Thanks a bunch for being here. Ben Leon from the Dandy Brewing Company. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for being here. Good to meet you. And Socrates Cortigonis. Nailed it. From Last Best Brewing and Distilling. Awesome, guys. Real quick, everyone's drinking beer nowadays, it seems. It's no longer just the man's man beverage, not a blue-collar thing anymore. Why is that? Why is everybody drinking beer nowadays?
I think it's a shift in not just beer, but sort of people these days are looking local and looking for craft and looking for products that there's a little more care and love going into them, and I think beer demonstrates that great. Right from grain, with the rise of micro malters, people are understanding where their beer is coming from, which is a fairly new idea. Yeah. But I think people really take to that they know, living in Alberta especially, we got grain, it makes great beer, and they know where it's brewed right here in Calgary. So I think people really take to that idea.
You would agree, Socrates? It's just it's now all inclusive. Huh?
For a long time, people were force-fed, marketing. We were talking about breweries as marketing agencies more than craft product providers. In the last, I'd say 2 decades, we've started to see beers come out of the woodwork and showing the range of the product. Beer can be as simple as an everyday drink, or it can be as complicated as the most complicated wines, and the range of beer is what's exciting people and bringing new people towards beer. We've seen in Calgary these beer halls that have really opened people's minds to the fact that there could be 100 beers on tap, and there's going to be a lot of range and a lot of little variation in there that people can really relate to and become one with.
The female population. I used to head out and the gals with the spirits, the wine. It just seems there's been a real movement to sort of capture that end of the market. What's been done to really corner that market?
I think just the way we talk about beer is exciting for everyone. I
think about fruity beers, fruit infusion, that kind of thing.
You got fruit infusion, but you're talking about the malt that goes into beers can do crazy things. They can make it taste very caramelly. They can make the beer taste very chocolatey. Adding beer, fruit to beer is a common thing to do in a lot of cultures. But even in the last 10 years, the hops that have been coming out of North America and other hop growing regions that they're a lot more fun to drink. They taste like tropical fruits. They have nuances that are citrusy and not just beer used to be very limited, and I think in the last 10 years we've seen a lot of growth in the colors that we're allowed to paint with as brewers.
So when we talk about hops and hop production, is there a science behind the growing of hops to fine-tune a hop exactly the way you want it? How does that work?
Huge. I mean, so hops, they carry a terroir just like grapes do for wine. So there's that. So in different regions, there's farmers that are experimenting, making new strains, cross-pollinating and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you look what was available even 10 years ago versus now, every year there's just so many more hops on the market. And hop suppliers will suggest these numbered hops that are just grown in one corner of a farmer's field to be tried to be put into market 3 years down the road. But yeah, there's huge laboratories in all these hop regions that are, experimenting with tons of different hops, different strains and stuff like that.
It's a big science. There's a lot to it, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the range of hops is fun too. You got everything from very floral, delicate flavors to your citrus realm, and then you have the more vegetative flavors and then the eucalyptus-y medicinal sort of flavors. So like when we go to write a beer recipe, we're really trying to tell a story with it.
Tell a story with it. I like that.
I guess so. It's interesting because once you learn more about the process of brewing, you can the hops that you put in at the very end of the boil are the ones that you smell on the initial your initial contact with the beer, and the ones that we put on at the very beginning of the boil are the ones that you get at the very end of your palate, and that whole range. So we can kind of tell a story with hops all the way through the.
You guys are artists, is what you are, essentially, right?
Mad scientists.
Mad scientists
would be.
Folks, we're going to jump to a quick break. Stick with us.